Over 7,000 participants from more than 100 countries have gathered in Cape Town, South Africa for the 5th Annual African Energy Week 2025, which runs from September 29 to October 3. Now, the summit has cemented its place as Africa's leading platform for energy deal-making and policy direction. And this year's theme carries Invest in African Energy, positioning Africa as the global energy champion. So, News Central's Director of Programs, Tolulope Adele Balogun's live in Cape Town and joins us now for more details. Tolulope, thank you so much for joining us to share more details as regards this. So, let's have an understanding of what we are to expect at the Africa Energy Week.
So this is a week in which we're going to expect a lot of power deals and a lot of panel debates. What we're going to expect is to see participants, as you said, from over 100 countries, over 7,000 participants here talking about Africa's energy futures. And of course, that's going to mean deals, that's going to mean collaboration, that's going to mean a lot of content. We have local content conversations already happening because today is called Day Zero. So it's pre-conference workshops. It's a lot of content that organizations as well as countries are able to showcase their energy offerings. So you have a lot on display, but of course it's tomorrow that's going to be day one with, of course, the opening address and a lot of keynote addresses from some major players in the energy futures and the energy conversation here on the African continent. And funny enough, maybe not funny enough, but interesting enough, from two sides, from the East and the West as well, because we'll be having the Russia-Africa Summit as well as the US-Africa Summit. So it's going to be interesting to see what's on offer from those two sides of the world, the East and the West, in terms of what they have in content in store for African countries. Lekan.
So with all this unfolding, why is this a significant year, most especially for this program for Africa and, of course, the conversations that will be going on? Hello, Tolu, can you hear me? So I said with all the conversations going on and everything that will be displayed at this event, what makes it a significant year for Africa looking at this Africa Energy Week? Okay, Tolulope, if you can hear me, I'll just go over the question again, all right? So I just asked that with all the conversations that will be going down and all the stuffs that will be showcased, what makes this a significant year for the Africa Energy Week?
So aside from the fact that this is the 5th African Energy Week, there's just something different in the air here in Cape Town this year. There's a lot more conversation around the need for African countries to own their energy futures, to make decisions about their energy resources and what they do with that. We, of course, understand around the green conversation happening internationally, but there are resources, very, very rich and necessary resources that African countries have that are, in a way, being held in limbo because of where the world is moving. But this year, there's so many conversations as to how African resource-rich countries are going to make use of those resources for their population. So being the 5th African Energy Week, there just seems to be a conversation and a shift in the air that moves us beyond agenda to practical resources and oriented and solution-oriented conversations this year at AEW.
But then we talk about resources, but then we have a continent that is bedeviled with deficit in infrastructure. So beyond the conversation, what should we be expecting in terms of recommendations and actions to actually, of course, deal with those areas and optimize the values that we seek?
So I think I'm not the one in the best position to answer that question. I do have a mining expert standing by who's going to join me now. Her name is Bongi Mabusela. She's a mining expert here in South Africa. Bongi, join me, please. And so we want to have an understanding of the expectations you have, particularly as a mining expert, for this year's AEW. We're looking at the values. We're looking at moving this beyond an agenda, beyond a conference, into practical solutions for the African continent. What do you think?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Of course, I think we as the continent, we have got a lot to offer. I always say that when people are saying we should move away from coal, we cannot develop in the dark. That's how we should view this as Africans. We should be able to say, as this gathering, we're able to take bold steps in terms of policies that will protect our people in Africa and ensure that as Africa, we cannot develop in the dark. We will still mine coal because coal for all of us as the continent is a strategic and a critical mineral.
That's really quite interesting because we see that it appears that the West and Africa are on two different paths when it comes to energy resources. They're moving into green energy, conversations around carbon, and we still have these resources that are in the ground that we need to make use of for our own development. When you hear that there's going to be a Russia-Africa summit, a U.S.-Africa summit, what does that put you in mind of?
It reminds me of something. I mean, the president of the USA, drill, baby, drill. I always like to refer to that. I mean, countries should understand us as the continent that we have innovation in these days. We can have our coal and still be innovative and ensure that we are developing and extracting our resources in a very, very responsible manner. So there is no need for anyone to tell Africa that we should move away from coal and go green. We can go green and we can still mine our coal because we are a developing continent which need these resources so that we're able to take our continent forward.
Before I let you go, you are a woman in the mining sector, and I'm very happy to say in the past few years that we as New Central have been part of AEW. There's been a deliberate and intentional shift to having women's participation in these energy sectors and focus. As a woman in the mining sector, what are you expecting? Why do you think it's important for African women to participate in resource governance across the continent?
Of course, this is a very critical question. Women participation in these industries matters for multiple reasons. We as women, if people have not noticed us, if we are not in those boardrooms, many things like that. In terms of economic growth, social justice, and also the issues around community development. Women participate in those decisions. You know, this gender stereotype where people think that women can't do other things. Women are capable of doing almost everything. In fact, as women, I call up to all the women. We should take up space and ensure that we challenge the stereotypes. We are capable of offering all these things that are needed by society, and we've got this, if I may say, to our male counterparts, we are not having that having that ego, you know, those testosterone, and we are able to adapt easily. So mining is meant for everyone. Women can take up leadership positions, and women are also, if you look at social cohesion, which is needed due to social tensions in these industries, you need women to be able to balance the approach and ensure that communities are moving forward with the industry.
Thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Bongi. And of course, that is what we're here to do. We need to make sure that everybody's voice is recognized. I just want to let you know that this is, of course, an event where we're going to be seeing a number of high-profile panels and high-profile keynote speakers. We're expecting to have the Minister of Nigeria's Resources, we're expecting to have Minister Heineken Lokobiri here. He's going to be giving a keynote address in the coming days of this conference. We're also expecting to hear from the Minister of Energy and Green Transition in Ghana, that's John Abdullahi Chinapor. We're also going to hear from the Secretary General of OPEC. There is an OPEC roundtable, and they'll be also sharing their oil outlook. And I know that's one that many people will be paying attention to. So we will also be having that as a focus for us while we're here. So we'll also be hearing from Haitham El Gais, the Secretary General of OPEC. There are a number of participation and participatory events that will be happening. As I said, there's going to be a focus on energy security in Africa, with women's participation being on the spotlight. There's also going to be a Nigeria roundtable navigating the new executive order and sector reforms, and also an opportunity for certain countries that are very resource rich to showcase the resources that they have. So we have Gabon, we have Nigeria, we have Egypt, we have Libya. There are going to be opportunities for these countries also to showcase showcase what their resources are and what their plans are for the future of energy in their countries. Lekan.
Thank you so much, Tolilokwe. I know that it's going to be a power-packed 5 days of conversation in Cape Town, South Africa. We are glad that News Central will be bringing all the details to our viewers right from that particular axis. That's Tolilokwe Adelere Balogun, our Director of Programs for News Central, bringing us the details of the Africa Energy Week.